All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about Dr. Dinga, someone I just got on game with a few days ago in his amazing case for defending DEI, and then talk about Stephen A. Smith responding to critics like myself of him shielding the Republican Party, and then the host from Trigonometry, and he tries to defend Elon Musk and capitalism here in America. Let's get into it. And if you guys are longtime subscribers of this channel, let me know how you guys feel about this longer form content. I would like your guys' feedback. So once again, let me know in the comments. All right, so when it comes to DEI, I have covered that plenty of times, but I need people to understand. So when you're having these conversations with people, you can at least understand the basics of it. And when it comes to DEI, that stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it refers to practices, policies, and incentives aimed to creating more fair, respectful, and inclusive environments, often in workplaces, schools, and organizations. Now, once again, if you understand a little bit of history, American history, you understand that institutions, schools, jobs, just communities exclusively excluded Black and brown people. Like, that was baked in to communities, into wherever, restaurants, bathrooms, every places that Blacks and brown people had tried to integrate, they would purposely were excluded. And we know that's a problem. And now today, you know, people are talking about reverse racism, but they don't understand, to have reverse racism, you need to have racism to begin with. And if DEI or affirmative action, if you dislike it regarding whatever policies, that's a conversation. But if you want to remove something like DEI, my question to you is, then what are you going to replace it with to make sure that none of these key factors when it comes to not being excluded from opportunities, jobs, education, so on and so forth, housing, things like that, how are you going to make sure that's not being weaponized to exclude people? That's a good question that Republicans never seem to want to answer. But let's go ahead and listen to Dr. Dinga. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And just, he lays this out beautifully in regards to DEI.
Done.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. Now,
it's an honor.
From your own personal experience, can you tell us why you think DEI is so important and works?
Well, the great activist Julian Bond said that you take the word America and you flip the letters around, you can spell out the term I am race. There's nothing that has happened in America that race has not been a part of. Whether we're talking about housing, whether we're talking about jobs, whether we're talking about corporate access, whether we're talking about the healthcare system, which Dr. King said was probably the most racist aspect of American society, everything has been based on race. If you go back into the day and you look at other groups of diverse backgrounds, we used to use very ignorant terms like yellow to describe Asian people, red to describe Native American people. Over the years, we flipped that, started talking about Asian American and Native Americans, indigenous people. But if you notice, we kept white and Black. Because the problem with whiteness is that whiteness is an idea. It's not about white people, it's about the idea of whiteness, just as the idea of Blackness is a problem. And so we kept those on the books. We changed categories of whiteness over the years in order to expand whiteness. And so we have to understand that this country has always been about the complexion of connection, and it has always served to deny people opportunities based on their race. And so diversity is about what Dr. King said. He said it's about true integration, is about the inclusion of power, resources, and responsibility. So it's not just about the numbers you have in your organization, it's about what's the power that they have. And that's why DEI programs work. I see that at the corporations that I speak at.
Hey, first off, time out, hold on. Did you see his face?
And
Look
that's why
at
DEI
Dr.
programs
Phil's
work.
face.
I see that at the
He is confused. He does not understand. First off, honestly, personally, I don't think he understands half the things he's talking about. I doubt Dr. Phil has spent any time reading about African Americans here in America and the struggle that they had to overcome to even get somewhat of equality. in their communities throughout America. So he is just sitting there. He has no rebuttal, which is the beautiful part. This Dr. Dinga is laying this down beautifully. And it's hard to normally impress me, but this right here is just pure beautiful right here. Let's continue.
The corporations that I speak at, I see it at the schools that I speak at, I see it at the government groups that I speak at, and this idea that...
But how did they get there? They didn't get there through a DEI program, and they don't define diversity based on skin color.
I would disagree with that. Diversity is not just about race. There's diversity of thought, there's religion, class, physical ability, which is the largest quote-unquote minority group in this country is the disabled population, who's also not represented on many of the campuses that I go to. But we get stuck on this concept of race.
And that's, once again, so beautiful. Like, and I said this plenty of times in my context, especially when I was last talking about the co-leader of Black Lives Matter, when she was trying to make the case for Jordan Neely and Daniel Penny. Not everything has to revolve around race, because 9 times out of 10 that affects more people other than just Black folks. And we know when it comes to policies that help Black folks, especially through the civil rights movement, that literally helped everybody else. A lot of people, especially a lot of Republicans, only focus on race when it comes to the civil rights, but don't understand, and those who support Republicans don't understand, if you take out elements of the civil rights or affirmative action or DEI, you're literally taking out your own rights. White women don't understand that. A lot of disabled people don't understand that. Asians, Mexicans, LGBTQ community, they don't understand that you're literally pulling the rug out of your own feet. Understand that. This is not just helping Black people. Just do a little reading. You understand that this tide lifts a bunch of boats, not just Black people. But once again, that takes a little going out of your way to read a little bit. But let's continue.
Because it has this fundamental beef between white and Black. And people ultimately don't want to give up whiteness. If you look at Jane Elliott, a white scholar who was fired from school for the blue-eyed, brown-eyed test, she asked the audience of white people, how many of y'all be willing to give up being white? And none of them raised their hand. And she said, well, it's because you know that being white makes you automatically be treated better than Black people, and you're not doing anything about it. That's where the problem lies. Are we going to...
Hey. Beautiful.
continue to build an America where everybody can be celebrated or tolerated? That's what it really comes down to.
Let me ask you a question. This is an observation that Thomas Sowell made that I'm just curious if you agree with, that the free market provides a clear incentive not to discriminate according to race.
This market isn't free.
That's not what I asked you.
I disagree with what he said. I would agree if you actually had a free market, which we do not in the United States. Because free means everybody has access to it. Everybody has access to the same resources. We live in a society where we fund our schools based off of taxpayers' dollars. So the poorest schools get the poorest resources, the richer schools get the best resources. What's free about that? We continue to create a cycle of poverty.
But his point is...
Hey, when I first watched this, I literally took notes. So I advise you guys to do the same. Once again, if hopefully I can remember to put the link of his YouTube channel in this description, but I need people to listen to people like this. Like, this is note-taking worthy information here. Because what he is saying, you can't refute. You can't say, no, that's not true. It's literally why you can literally in the same state, in the same city, have a funded school, and then a few miles around the corner have a school that's fully funded and functional and having totally different outcomes. Why is that? And why are we not talking about that? But no, Republicans want to just get rid of the Department of Education. Like, that's going to fix something. That's literally only going to make more problems, which I already done talked about, but that's only bringing more problems and not fixing the problem, not looking at the root cause of the issue. Hello, ding, ding, ding. Take notes, guys, please.
That if you're racist and you hire whites that are not as productive, intelligent, and sharp because you don't want to hire a black candidate who is smart, sharp, productive, in the long run, they're not going to be competitive and they're going to lose out.
But is that not the history of America? I mean, this was a country that at one point had a sign saying no blacks or Irish need apply because Irish people were not considered part of whiteness, right? And so look at Wall Street. I mean, there's a history of people only choosing to employ white people. And that's why in a society that's browning, in a world that's becoming smaller, the ability to compete is not there. And so my thing is for people who feel threatened because they've always had access to everything from black women's bodies to the companies and the organizations and the places that they lived and occupied, equality is going to look like oppression.
And just to add on it, which I don't even need to, but I just want to just add into it. A lot of these institutions that were discriminating against black and brown people are still up and running today. A lot of health insurances, a lot of banks in these areas, they literally exploited black and brown people and they're doing fine. So this whole talking point of, oh, these companies are going to, inevitably just see their own destruction because they're not doing what they're supposed to do morally. No, morally is not a part of the equation of success, of meeting profits. They don't need that. Morals don't equal profits. If anything, it's the reverse way, So once again, these old played out talking points destroyed in this single video. Bravo, beautiful, amen, God bless.
I want to thank all of my guests tonight.
But once again, guys, if you guys disagree or agree with anything I said in this segment right here, let me know in the comments down below. All right, so before Trump won in 2016 and before I was ever on YouTube, a lot of people started talking about, was Trump racist? And my first notion, my first thought, especially when I started my YouTube channel, was Trump isn't racist per se. I mean, he might have a little shady background, but honestly, at that age, back in those times, who wasn't white and racist, But I kind of just put it aside, was Trump isn't racist, but he's good at using race as a tool for his own campaign. You know what I'm saying? He's able to speak to those individuals and he may not be racist, but he knows what to say to add those people to his base. But then at some point, it started becoming undeniable. You can't be that comfortable if you are using race as a tool and not be racist. And then after he started more so demonizing black and brown people and using them as a scapegoat and literally quoting Hitler out of his quotes in books, it's at some point, I have to be honest with myself and say, Trump is racist. At some point, you got to stop defending people like that. If they want to let you know who they are, sometimes, damn it, you have to believe them. You can't save everybody. And it feels like that's literally what Stephen A. Smith is doing. And he came out with this video labeled, "Am I, Stephen A. Smith, becoming a Republican?" First off, you can be a Republican. That's not the issue. The issue for me and people like myself is when you try to defend what is impossible to defend. If Trump is racist, just take that to the chin. Just say it with your chest, you don't care if he's racist, you're looking out for your bottom line. We all know Stephen A. Smith got that amazing, beautiful, check, that contract. Just say you want to protect your money. You don't have to come up with these weird, oh, the Democratic Party made me like this. No, because people like myself have plenty of critiques of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. But when it comes to laying down the facts of both parties, I could never in a million years vote for the Republican Party the way that they are now. I mean, the Democratic Party is not even close to being perfect, and I have a lot of critiques. Check the receipts. But compared to the Republican Party, hey, they make the Democratic Party look like saints. by a mile. But let's go ahead and take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith has to say.
Now let's move on to some politics and social media, where some of you, no surprises, you're just continuing to piss me off. Why? Because every time I make a comment that's critical of the Democratic Party or the left, I get accused of being a pundit for the right. Prior to the election cycle, I voiced my concerns about Joe Biden and his ability to serve as second term as president. Then Biden stepped on the debate stage in late June and revealed what many suspected. He embarrassed himself. The White House and the Democrats eventually switched to Vice President Kamala Harris when he stepped away, who ultimately ran what some would say a valiant presidential campaign, at least in the eyes of some, that ultimately fell short with voters across the country. I pointed out my concerns with the campaign and the Democratic Party along the way, and many of you wanted to accuse me of being a voice for the right.
Okay, once again, timeout, hold on, red flag on the play, okay? No one in their right mind is hearing your critique of the Democratic Party and how they failed with Joe Biden and the rollout of Harris and them not having a primaries. 9 times out of 10, Democratic voters who understand politics to some extent understand that that was a major fail, a major L in regards to the Democratic Party. I agree with you, but people are not in my comments saying that I'm an undercover Republican. And as we're about to listen, he's going to still fall into that trap of trying to defend what's undefendable, if that's a word. If it's not, I'm making it now today. So once again, Stephen A. Smith, you are trying too hard to do something that people are not asleep. We can see through the bullshit. And no matter how frustrating you try to sound, you're not fooling nobody.
So you know what? I feel like it's time to set the record straight, because ain't nobody hiding, ain't nobody running.
Hey, come on now.
Okay? Let me be very, very clear. I'm a registered independent because I don't trust either side.
Nah. Once again, I'm a registered independent. I'm an independent. I'm in the middle. I don't know. Left, right. It depending on how the wind blows. No. To me, now, of course, you can have your own opinions about, how you set yourself when it comes to Republicans and Democrats and anything in between. But to me, personally, my opinion, calling yourself an independent is almost like saying you rather sit on the fence. You know what I'm saying? I know people like Bernie Sanders is registered independent, but he heavily votes Democrat for a reason. You can easily say he's a Democrat. But for people like Stephen A. Smith, I think he only uses that as a cover to say, I don't want to commit to either side because that's going to mess with the paper. That's going to mess with my audience. So I'm going to say I'm an independent so I don't have to be like tied to a side. You know what I'm saying? Like myself, I'm a Democrat, but not by choice. Unfortunately, the Republican Party is so despicable. I can't see myself voting Republican. I see myself more as a democratic socialist. So when it comes to the liberals, the elites, I have an issue with. I'm a little bit more progressive than that. But I don't fully endorse the Democratic Party. But unfortunately, with our two-party system, until it's changed, I have to vote Democrat. Because the Republican Party is not even a choice in 2025. So let's continue.
I think both sides are full of it on so many levels and so many circumstances, it's nauseating. But I also want to take a moment, because a lot of people out there on social media have been saying to me, here, Stephen A., you take these positions, you're frustrated with the Democratic Party, but then you voted for Kamala Harris against Trump. Why? It's very, very simple. I believe that Donald Trump has been a divisive figure. And I was thinking coming into this election that the last thing we needed was 4 more years of what we saw the last time.
Okay, now he's making sense here, but literally in the next sentence, he's going to erase everything he just said with some bullshit. And if you're not coming from a place of honesty and you're just trying to like have these weird talking points, you can see right through the cracks. And it's very obvious that he's trying to defend Trump. That's something that a reasonable person would never defend.
where there was so much strife and so much division that even though the economy clearly was doing well under his watch before COVID struck, it was just too much for the country to take. I was fearful of civil war in this country.
Okay.
It wasn't so much that he was supportive of white supremacists and he was this racist and all of this stuff like people were saying. I didn't engage in that incendiary rhetoric because I've always believed that Donald Trump was just somebody who did things that were politically expedient.
Okay, so you just said that you were fearful of a civil war, but Trump is just not racist. He's just using it, right? Make that make sense. Someone you think could incite another civil war. I need you to look at the numbers on how many people died during the first Civil War. Okay, it wasn't just a few hundred. Okay, so you're afraid that a single person in their rhetoric could cause another civil war here in 2024, 2025, but he's not racist, right? To me, for someone to cause another civil war here in America in today's age has to be an extreme racist person who knows how to use racism and the bigotry locked in everybody at its full potential. Like locking the Super Saiyan in everybody when it comes to racism. That's how powerful Trump has to be to incite another civil war. But no, according to Stephen A. Smith, he's not racist. He's just like using it for his own political gains, right? Get the fuck out of here.
If supporting one side was going to generate votes for him, he would flow with it. And if it was not going to support his cause, he wasn't. It's just simple. It's just that simple. Why did I say that? And why did I refrain from that incendiary rhetoric that was thrown in his direction? It was because I knew Donald Trump before he ran for president. And black, whites, male, females, and everybody in between got along with him great.
Once again, that is incorrect. First off, people knew of Donald Trump. They knew the persona on TVs, on the TV shows. And, that's why, songs like, I forget the song, but from Nelly, when he's talking about Trump, it was the idea of Trump. I don't think people knew Trump personally, because if they knew that he was cheating on all his wives. He was not paying contractors and all these other companies what they were owed. He bankrupted 6 businesses. You know what I'm saying? A professional con man who was in millions of dollars in debt and was just slapping his name on whatever made him money. That's not a person you would be your best friend. You know what I'm saying? Unless you got a weird circle to where you have people like that in your corner, that speaks more on you than Trump. But if people knew who he really was and his shadiness when it comes to his hotels and not allowing black and brown people to take housing in his hotels, that'd be a little shady, right? So once again, people knew of Trump, but they didn't know Trump on a personal level. And if you did, Stephen A. Smith, that speaks on your character. I'm just saying.
So for all of a sudden, everybody to stand up and act like he was this pariah was BS. But I was also acknowledging he didn't help his own cause. From the moment in 2015 when he strolled down those escalators with Melania, the man offended 50% of the population back then in 2015. Came across as xenophobic in the eyes of many.
And you don't say. Oh my God, you don't say. Oh no, but he's pretending to do all this for political purposes, right?
It just seemed to go downhill from there. So after he served his 4 years in the White House, I didn't want a repeat of all of that. But I didn't call him a racist. I didn't compare him to Nazis. I didn't sit up there and accuse him of befriending white supremacists and all of that stuff, because I knew no matter what people believed, they were trying to politicize it.
Okay, first off, Trump was running for president. Every crazy, racist, bigoted, homophobic, misogynist thing that he said, which was a lot, he made it political. And political people like myself called that out. We didn't make it political. He did. Running for president in 2016, everything that came out of his mouth was political. We didn't make it politic. Stephen A, he's not just a random person in the world as like an ice cream server or something. No, he ran for the highest office in America. So everything he's going to say is going to come out of a political vantage point. No, once again, that's a whack Republican talking point that makes no damn sense.
So when I thought about him against Kamala Harris, I said, excuse me, let me make sure Republicans are in the House and the Senate. You have somebody that's going to work with both sides in the White House, and we'll have peace.
Okay.
Domestically. That's what I was thinking. But under no circumstances was I this raving supporter of Kamala Harris. I saw her during the primaries in 2020. I saw that she couldn't get to Iowa. I saw her comments about transgenders, particularly those in prison that wanted sex changes.
That's such a whack talking point because those laws or whatever she was talking about was in the books even before her. But once again, Stephen A. Smith, you got all that money. Use some of that to educate yourself. Just a little bit. This costs a couple dollars, brother. Google some of this information.
I saw how incoherent she appeared in communicating what her objective would be when it came to the economy. I know for a fact that she was supposed to oversee the issues involving the border. Yes, like Roland Martin said, she wasn't the quote-unquote border czar, but she was perceived as such. I also saw her go on The View and categorically deny that there was any need to change anything that Biden had done, even though over 12 million people crossed the border illegally, and you were acting like there was no border crisis. I saw the duplicitous tendencies. I saw the inconsistencies. I also saw the hypocrisy.
And that right there really sets the tone on why people don't understand and or don't like Stephen A. Smith. One, we all understand that the Democratic Party has a lot of hypocrisy, has a lot of shit that they seem to not want to work out for the American people. But if you're being honest with yourself and you look at the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and say like, yeah, Trump could do something, you are lying to yourself. Yes, Harris didn't want to really separate herself from Joe Biden, and her policies kind of reflect that because it sounds like something Joe Biden would say when it comes to her policies. But if you look at Trump's policy when it comes to the economy is what? Make the economy great again in tariffs. That's a policy to you? When it comes to healthcare, what is his plans? Oh, a concept of a plan. And he doesn't even explain the concept of it, except for Obamacare sucks. Bro, that's not even a concept. That's just a statement. But you, Stephen A. Smith, still find a way to defend the Republican Party for what? Why? That is the question. And that's why people are questioning you and your motives. And to me, it's pretty simple. You're just trying to protect your own money. Just say that. Be honest. But once again, guys, if you agree or disagree with anything I said in this segment, let me know in the comments down below. All right, so if you have been living under a rock or you don't know much about America politics and government, you should already understand that when it comes to all the broken institutions here in America, 9 times out of 10, if you trace it all the way down the rabbit trail, you will find either a crooked politician and or big company funding that politician to keep the status quo. 9 times out of 10, that is the problem with education, when it comes to wage equalities, when it comes to healthcare, anything and everything that affects the normal day-to-day American. If it's affecting them in a negative way, you can always find a crooked politician behind it. And it's not simple to, it's not hard to understand that when it comes to capitalism affecting the American people, it is always 9 times out of 10 in a negative way, because capitalism at its truest form will exploit anyone and everyone over profits. That is their motive. That is their number one goal. And we see that with healthcare. They don't care or value human life. It's always over profit. And it sucks that it has to come to the death of an individual for people to have the conversation. But damn it, it's always been something that's been plaguing people for decades, before I was even born. So once again, we understand it's always a crooked politician in our broken government that's always facilitating these issues. And when it comes to Elon Musk, he is the biggest receiver when it comes to government subsidies. So why are we trusting a billionaire to solve people's problems? But let's go ahead and listen to this guy. This idiot. I mean, I don't want to call people names. I'm trying to do better on myself. Jesus is working on me, okay? But this guy right here is going to try to explain to us what's wrong with America. Let's take a listen.
The problem is, we're not in a war. There is no enemy to fight. And so nobody knows what to do, which is why what we have is just a creeping, unstoppable malaise. Even now, with the wave of enthusiasm that has swept Argentina and the United States, because the problem is not our politicians, it's us.
Whoa. It's not the politicians. It's not the politicians. It's us. Oh, my fault. Not the people getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to maintain whatever X, Y, and Z policies these companies want to maintain to keep them rich. No, it's our fault. Okay, got you, Mr. Suit and Tie. Okay, tell us more, please.
Milei won in Argentina because he promised to cut red tape, taxes, and bureaucrats with his chainsaw of freedom. Trump won in America because he promised to cut regulation, taxes, and waste.
He promised to cut waste while literally having the person to oversee it a billionaire, and then having another person who's also a billionaire, and both of them use government subsidies for their own personal businesses. And they want to attempt to cut welfare and Social Security. Really? Oh, hey, what planet are you fucking living on? It doesn't make any sense, but we're here to listen to you talk, brother. Go ahead, continue.
Europeans, on the other hand, are very clear. We want higher taxes and more government. This is why no politician in Britain or in Europe talks about unleashing the talents of our people. We don't want to be unleashed. We want to be looked after. We need to recognize that the answer to our problems is to create a vibrant and growing economy, not to hike up tax rates and energy prices to chase industrial, creative, and wealthy people out of our countries. Britain, if you don't know, has lost more millionaires in recent years than any country in the world except China.
Hey, congratulations. I wish America would run out a lot of these millionaires and billionaires out of this country, because they're sucking the life out of everybody. They want to increase the Social Security age from 65 to 69. Why? Because they want to keep you old and working forever until you die. They don't want to pay that money out. They want to keep you working for whose benefit? The billionaires who have an endless amount of money for folks like us, and they want to cut our welfare, and majority of Americans are making less than $70,000 a year, which in most states you can't even live off of if you're a single person. So you tell me once again, why do we need billionaires and millionaires in this country? But hey, I just been an American all my life. What do I know, huh?
We need to spend more time focusing on building wealth instead of arguing about how to divide it. We need to aspire to do things, to make things, to create things. I know that many of you don't like him.
Don't you say.
But if you're even remotely curious or intellectually honest, you have to ask yourself, why has Elon Musk become an icon to hundreds of millions of people around the world? It's not his charismatic speeches and stunning good looks. It's the fact that he builds big things. And
he's not an engineer. He hasn't built anything in his fucking life except for lies upon lies. And his sex robot toy that he calls his girlfriend. I don't know. He can't even build a relationship with his daughter. So you want to talk about him building big things? He didn't build Tesla. Okay, he bought that. He didn't build SpaceX. He bought that from NASA. So once again, why? Why are we playing stupid, guys? Look this information up. It is free public information. Elon Musk is not this amazing Tony Stark that he wants to claim to be. No, stop lying to yourself. But let's go ahead and watch this video so we can have a better explanation on how wealth inequality works here in America.
This is what wealth inequality in the United States actually looks like. This grain of rice represents $200,000. That's about the median net worth of a citizen in the United States, which means if you took our population and drew a line split down the middle, about half of us have this much or less. Half of us have this much or less.
And trust me, I am one of those individuals that have half of that and then slice that half in a half. And I probably barely even have that. So keep that in mind as you watch this, okay? Just be honest with yourself.
Just gonna put that down right there. 1 grain of rice. This is $1 million. 5 grains of rice. When most of us think rich, we think of $1 million. This is $100 million. This is about the net worth of CEOs who delay and deny care for sick Americans. This is also about the net worth of CEOs who tell Americans to eat cereal if they can't afford food for their hungry kids. This is $277 million. This is Elon Musk's personal investment in the 2024 elections. This is what he spent to buy the presidency.
Hey, and I done said this time and time again. I cannot believe we allowed a billionaire to literally use his own money through super PACs to fund and elect his own president for his own benefits. What kind of what kind of democracy do we really have if we allowed that shit to happen? That fucking blows my mind. And we're just rocking with it, right? Man, don't get me started.
$1 billion. This is the approximate net worth of Vivek Ramaswamy. Only 800 people in the United States have this much money or more. As a frame of reference, think about how many people you went to high school with. Only 800. And this is $6.3 billion. This is the approximate net worth of Donald Trump. He recently said in an interview that he doesn't think he can bring grocery prices down after running his campaign on a promise to do so.
Whoa.
Also blames immigrants.
That sounds like a broken promise that a lot of people fell for. You know why they fell for it? Because Donald Trump is a scammer. He's an opportunist. And people fell for it because they're uneducated on purpose and they don't want to learn. They're literally stuck on stupid. And that's who Trump swindles left and right, is dumbasses. But okay, let's continue.
Who have less than a fraction of a grain of rice each for a lot of the financial troubles facing our country. And this is Elon Musk. He's worth $400 billion.
Wow.
He spent $277 million on the 2024 election cycle, while we have homeless veterans on our streets and hungry kids in our schools. This is what actual wealth disparity looks like in America. Each grain of rice is worth $200,000. And Elon Musk also wants to fire 75% of our federal workforce, which includes a majority of veterans. He wants to fire 75% of these people who have a single grain of rice trying to earn a living and feed their families because he says that that's inefficient. Musk, Ramaswamy, and certain members of Congress also want to consider cutting social welfare programs to support people with less than a single grain of rice from going into poverty. They want to look at cutting these programs because they believe that that's inefficient. Now that we finished the civics lesson, let's talk biology. Did you know that all human beings, no matter how much money they have, are all mortal? We're all made of flesh and bone. We all have to eat, and we all have to sleep.
Hey, could not have said it better myself. Once again, we need to understand. We can have the conversations about capitalism and socialism and the history and the blah, blah, blah. We can have that conversation, but we need to understand. We need to come to an agreement, to a unified understanding that capitalism, the way that it's functioning now, with no regulations, no red tape, none of this bullshit that a lot of people keep arguing for whatever reason, is not working on our behalf. It is literally sucking the little money that we have and giving it to the one, literally not even 1%, and is making them richer. Look at all the stats. It is not looking good for regular folks like us, but we keep continuing to fall for the bullshit of these politicians, and it's Republicans and Democrats. We need to hold them accountable, get money out of government, and start from there, and learn how we need to make government work on our behalf and not the 1%'s behalf, because that's how shit is going right now, and it doesn't make sense. The math, as the young kids say, the math ain't mathing. It ain't working. So once again, once we get over the bullshit when it comes to trans this and trans that and gay this and gay that, leave that shit alone. That is not helping the bottom line here. We need to hold these politicians accountable. And if they do some illegal shit behind the scenes, throw them in jail. Republican, Democrat, and anything in between, get them in jail, along with these CEOs that are continuing to exploit people over profits. That is evil. EIVL, evil. No excuses. That simple. But once again, guys, if you disagree or agree with anything I said in this video, let me know in the comments down below. And like always, let's have that conversation.